on regular Pokemon Showdown, National Dex RU is the lowest National Dex tier. But what if I told you that it goes even lower than RU, even lower than NU, PU, and even ZU? Now, we got National Dex SU, the lowest usage base level tier in Pokemon Showdown, and also in National Dex. That you don't get any worse than National Dex SU. And this is not to speak badly of the tier, but again, this is like the tier where I believe power creep has hit. It's like, if you are in this tier, you are the worst of Pokemon in the entire game, because National Dex kept every single Pokemon. So obviously we're just going to look into the builder a little bit. If we can find some replays, that would be quite convenient as well. But yeah, we're going to be looking into Nat Dex's lowest usage based tier. If you guys do enjoy this video, leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel. Join the kingdom. On our way to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I thank everyone for the support. But either way, yeah, let's look into National Dex SU, the lowest level National Dex tier. And I imagine this would sort of be the tier if Game Freak continued adding every single Pokemon into the games in the post Generation 8 world, because obviously when Generation 8 came out, we had Dexit, and Dexit means Dexit, so pretty much a lot. It was the first time where not every single Pokemon was in the game. So I imagine in a world where Gen 8 and Gen 9 obviously didn't have Dexit cuts and that, this is what a real tier would look like. But obviously there'll be some minor differences, you know, like I doubt Z-moves and stuff would be in a real life lack of Dexit Pokemon franchise. But obviously Nat Dex has Z-moves, and you know, Terra has been banned from all Nat Dex formats. So yeah, there's realistically any Z-moves you're messing around with as a mechanic, and at this point you're so low down in the tiering rung, you don't even have to worry about Mega Evolution. Even something like Mega Ordino, which is considered to be one of the worst Mega Evolutions, finds itself in National Dex ZU, which again, isn't even that good either. But, you know, like, SU is even at a lower enough power level where even Mega Ordino is not bad enough to be in this tier. So yeah, what are some standout Pokemon to me that have landed in this tier? I would like to say I'll pick up Articuno as an option here, just because it's like the first legendary Pokemon I see, and to be fair, it is Articuno. I can't really imagine you know, Articuno being in any higher. Even though Articuno, I remember when I think maybe Gen 8 or Gen 9 PU in its early days, like Articuno was a good enough Pokemon there, but obviously DLC gets added and Articuno goes back to being a shitter basically. But yeah, Articuno SU doesn't really surprise me too much, and like a lot of these Pokemon I'm seeing so far are Pokemon that have had their time in PU in previous generations. Like Aurorus was a solid Gen 7 PU Pokemon, NU in Gen 6. Basculin was also a Gen 8 PU mon, and had a pretty decent niche in Gen 7 PU as well. And it's just a lot of these repeat offenders basically. Like some of these Pokemon, regardless of time, will always just be lower tier warriors, which is a shame to be honest, because like that's their fate basically. They're never going to be any higher than they can. Even something like Beautifly has never had the niche in like any PU tier. Maybe it's good in Gen 3 PU, I don't really know, but pretty much in a post Gen 3 world, especially when you have Stealth Rocks in the next subsequent 5 generations or even 6 generations, yeah, Beautifly doesn't exist in any tier basically. And even now, yeah, it is considered to be one of the worst fully evolved Pokemon of all time. Less than 400 base stat total. It gets Quiver Dance, but it doesn't even get Air Slash. Like, they couldn't even give it like benefit of the doubt and give it Air Slash. I don't think this Pokemon was in Gen 8 and is also not in Gen 9. Like, they just don't like this guy. And you know, to be fair, all of the regional Route 1 bugs, yeah, a lot of them have gotten more love than others, I'll say that, and Beautifly is definitely at the bottom of that list there. Even Butterfree, which is also in this tier, you know, Butterfree has Tinted Lens, Hurricane, Quiver Dance, Sleep Powder, Air Slash. It basically has everything that Beautifly wants, and you know, Beautifly is objectively just worse Butterfree, which is the fate that it's always had to deal with since, you know, the 3rd generation. So yeah, quite sad there. Any other standout picks for me? There's obviously a lot of Pokemon here. Like, there's a bit more than I was expecting. Like, this is at least maybe 100 mons at most. Again, I'm not counting anything. But speaking of another butterfly Pokemon, Vivillon manages to find itself in National Dex SU as well. Even though Vivillon is definitely a decent like level sweeper and it definitely has an easier time in Nat Dex formats than Gen 9, because obviously it gets access to hidden power, which obviously fixes its massive coverage issues. But even its lack of being able to hit steel type Pokemon. What steel types do we even have in this tier? We're really lacking. Defensive steels, we are lacking. Now, some of these guys aren't bad, at least for what they're doing. Like, yeah, Bastiodon, Aggron, and Probopass. I'm probably assuming Aggron's the best of those three, because historically Aggron has just been better than these guys at all points in time. Ferroseed, being a non-fully evolved Pokemon, actually having enough respect to be seen used in National Dex SU. And we have a bit of usage stats here. I don't know how accurate these are, but the fact that Ferroseed manages to even be more used than most of the fully evolved guys on this list really goes to show that typing, Eviolite, and what Ferroseed is capable of doing makes it one of the best defensive lower tier mons of all time, even though it's not fully evolved in the slightest. Even Gen 6 NU, Ferroseed, Gen 7 PU, Ferroseed, and for a non-fully evolved Pokemon, which doesn't even get to 350 BST, it really matters where the stats went into. And even though it has a low HP stat, you know, these defenses with Eviolite makes it pretty bulky for the power level where it lands in. But even looking at the usage stats here, which again, I don't know how accurate they are, but for the few games that this tier actually does see some play, we have some good inclination of what actually is good in this tier. Now, Tangela having 25% usage, that is pretty high. 1 in 4 teams in this meta game are using a Tangela, and it's nice to see Tangela being able to hit up with even more fully evolved Pokemon. Again, this Pokemon is not fully evolved, so yeah, it's probably just Eviolite. Showdown usage, yeah. So looking at this is typically the Tangela set that people are running, which is really interesting. Like, this is the most used one in the tier. We got second and third place in terms of usage going to 2 ground type Pokemons, one being Sandslash and the other being Piloswine. And I can kind of see why these guys are also good as well. Probably the best spinner in the tier. If we look at what actually gets rapid spinning here, you actually have some decent options, to be fair. Alolan Sandslash comes in with more, its typing gives it more resistances. You even have Toedscrew, you know, and some other spinners that have, you know, seen some usage in the lower tiers that are actually decent Pokemon, but I guess the meta just, you know, is more comfortable for Sandslash, I guess. But seeing how Piloswine, Tangela have, you know, advantage over Sandslash, I'm kind of confused why it's second place. Maybe Sand on Sandslash is actually kind of scary. Oops. How did I get rid of that? My bad. I accidentally put a text that I just dragged that shit in. Anyway, yeah, so what else is useful? Arboliva. Mesprit is always doing numbers. Mesprit, you know, kind of makes these, like, whatever tier Mesprit actually counts as, like, whether it's in Gen 6 NU, Gen 7 NU, and formerly Gen 7 PU, or even Gen 8 PU. I think Mesprit's Gen 8 in PU, PU in Gen 8. It always is putting in the work, and even though it's 2 tiers below PU now, Mesprit is still gonna find its way of being good in whatever tier it lands up in, which, you know, I have to applaud, even though it is just like the worst tier ever. At least in terms of usage. Like, you are chilling with some of the worst fully evolved mons of all time. Now, we also have Regirock, which actually sees less usage than Knuckle Stack, and I don't know how sad that is. I made a power creep video on Regirock the other day. Well, not the other day, but a few months back, just comparing Gen 9 power creep being pretty much the worst it's ever been, and like something like Garganacl is just Regirock with recovery and a much better ability. And the fact that his pre-evolution is doing better than Regirock, yeah, it's tough for Regirock. Your existence is actually really sad. Some more Gen 7 PU standouts that I'm seeing in this tier: Silvally Fairy, Alolan Dugtrio, Floatzel, even some ones like Hitmontop, which, you know, in the old days, this mon would never drop from RU because the ladder would just keep it in the tier where it was absolute garbage. Even Drampa, Silvally Dragon, I mean, some of these guys were ZU in Gen 7. Like, Samuro was even banned from PU in Gen 6. I mean, Gen 7. So the fact that, you know, it's here, yeah, it's just a lot. It's just funny to just see some of these Pokemon that were in like the NU to ZU range just sitting in SU now, which is quite interesting. Golbat, it was just a matter of time before Golbat. I actually lost where the fuck Golbat is. Yeah, it was just a matter of time before Golbat would actually, you know, fall off, because even in Gen 6 and Gen 7, it's an NU Pokemon. Gen 8, it took a break. It was in BDSP. And I think it was a decent BDSP PU Pokemon, but now, yeah, to be fair, for not fully evolved Pokemon, you've actually done yourself quite well. But again, it just goes to show how strong Power Creep is, or more Pokemon being introduced at the same time. Snorlax, yeah, Snorlax is probably the worst offender on this list. Probably one of the only few Generation 1 Pokemon that have actually made it all the way down here. I see Victory Bell, I see Executor, Poliwrath, and, you know, Butterfree and that. And, yeah, Snorlax being lower usage than those guys. Like, what went wrong for Snorlax? That's what I don't get. What went wrong for this guy? Because you have pretty good stats, very good stats, and I think they still hold up in Gen 9, other than the speed. But Snorlax was never meant to be a fast Pokemon, and they never really cared about his speed for, you know, any generation that he's been in. He's never cared about his speed. Gen 1 to Gen 4 Snorlax never cared about being like the slowest Pokemon in the game, never. But like, yeah, you just fell down. I think it just comes to the fact that Snorlax is just worse, just kept getting worse than other normal types, because like defensively and utility wise, other normal types just started to outshine Snorlax. It's also like, it's still very bulky, don't get it wrong. Like, Snorlax on the special side is still taking hits from some of the strongest special attackers in the game. But again, low physical bulk has let it down. And in terms of the damage department and curse setup, it's just kind of easy to stop as the generations go on. Even if we look at the normal types that are legal in that Dex SU, we do have like some really hard hitters. Like, even though Bouffalant doesn't get, like, according to this, has 0% usage, I guess no one has tested it. You know, it hits harder than Snorlax. Dodrio, you know, fast and strong, has access to SD, jump kick. Like, this is probably one of the more threatening Pokemon in the tier. Drampa, and like a whole lot of normal types are actually in this tier. Too many, to be honest. Like, a lot of like the worst normal type Pokemon of all time. You know, like, so some of the worst Pokemon of all time are normal types, and it's a lot of these Route 1 or just average level Pokemon that they used to fill out the decks. And yeah, Snorlax is still better than most of these guys. Like, I would still use Snorlax before Slacking or Farfetch'd, Fearow, Greedent. But yeah, it just can't hold up anymore, which is quite sad to see. But yeah, anything else that really catches my eye? Somewhat, like, I think some of my favorite mons are actually here. Like, for example, Beartic is my favorite ice type of all time. I'm pretty sure I saw Sork down here, which actually did shock me. I think Sork being down here is crazy to me, seeing how similar it is to something like Persimmon, which is, where is Persimmon in this? Persimmon's in that next PU. Like, what is the difference between Persimmon and Sork that gets Sork 2 tiers below Persimmon? And it was the same thing in Gen 7, even when Persimmon was actually legal in Gen 7 PU at the time, is the fact that Persimmon has U-turn. Sork might be a bit stronger, but that 5 base attack really doesn't matter when you just, like, are better choice Scarper. You have close combat, U-turn, gunk shot, rock slide as, you know, coverage. Sork, like, it can do bulk up. It does have heavy duty boots for sturdy, but again, it just isn't enough to carry, which is just insane to me that Persimmon is 2 tiers above when they're so similar fighting type Pokemon. What else? I saw some other Pokemon that were some of my favorite Pokemon of all time. Again, something like Fione doesn't shock me, Rampardos doesn't shock me, Raichu doesn't shock me. Like, most of these, you'll see this list and you're like, well, yeah, these ones are definitely just SU level. like, you guys don't even have to argue for Nat decks. Like, some of these guys are just shitters, regardless of that. Typhlosion, no, Typhlosion, no, please. Why are you SU? Why are you SU, Typhlosion? What the fuck happened? Zangoose, my favorite normal type. But where's Charizard? Where's Charizard? Where's Charizard? I spelled Typhlosion when I was supposed to spell Charizard. It's crazy. Anyway, Charizard makes it to ZU probably because of Z to Z moves, and it's just more versatile than that Typhlosion. But yeah, the Charizard versus Typhlosion debate can finally end. Charizard is unfortunately currently better than Typhlosion, which is a shame. And I think Typhlosion, in terms of starters, is actually the worst fire starter for going off like Gen 9 Nat Dex tiering, which is quite unfortunate. It's a sad day for us Typhlosion fans. It's always been a sad day. 2025 has not been a year for Typhlosion fans. like at least when the leaks came out. Yeah, being a Typhlosion fan in 2025, it's tough on us, honestly. It's really, really tough. Zebstrika also my favorite electric type. So like all my favorite Pokemon are shitters. Like again, like they're not my favorite Pokemon because they're competitively strong or not. Some are good in battle and some are really bad. As you can see, I just listed like four of my favorite Pokemon of all time who are stuck in the lowest level Natdex tier. But yeah, I'm gonna look for some replays. Hopefully we can find some, and if we can't, then I'll end off this video. But yeah, let's see if we can find some replays. Unfortunately, I could not find any replays. I tried clicking on replays to see if they had their own replay server, but unfortunately, that just redirected me to the normal Pokemon Showdown replays. But yeah, so that, I guess that'll be it for this video. What also shocked me in terms of usage was I saw Altaria with 10% usage. I'm pretty sure. I'm just like, Altaria is actually doing numbers in this tier. But yeah, Natdex SUs are very funny tier. One day I hope that I'm able to play this tier, because it actually just looks kind of funny. It seems like an amalgamation of like Gen 7 PU, Gen 7 ZU, maybe some Gen 8 mixed into that. Like it's just a mixture of all the lower tiers, like from the past like 3 generations at this point, at least from Gen 6 to now. Like it just seems like everything's been combined. But obviously you have some standout Pokemon that were nowhere near these tiers at the time, like Snorlax, like to be fair, Tangela was always around this level. But yeah, I think Snorlax is definitely the standout pick. Even something like Hariyama, Guzzlord, which was too much for Gen 7 PU, Gramble, which is an RU Pokemon in Gen 6 as well. But yeah, it just seems like a very interesting tier. Let me know down below if this tier, if you found National Dex SU quite interesting, what stuck out to you as I'm scrolling through this list right now, because there's a lot of Pokemon to go through, and if I'm scrolling as slowly as I can, you guys will kind of see what's available in this tier, and then you can let me know down below what caught your interest here. But yeah, thanks for watching this video, guys. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.